tomorrow. We'll do a dive. Well, there's got some things I'm going to talk about tomorrow. But
Colleagues, we might just reconstitute if we could.
Okay.
Well, there's no need to it.
Standing just behind you. So you said you see the top of that from there?
Was he?
Yeah, I can see. I don't have to worry about it. John's
Follow rules. The headmaster is here. It's wonderful. Brilliant. It's brilliant. It's lovely. It's been liberty so simple. Well, colleagues, thank you for reassembling. It's a pleasure to introduce Barry Scott. Barry's well known, I think, to us all. Barry's also a recently retired accountant and business consultant. We all know Barry very much for his membership of our society and the wonderful presentations he's given over the years on a range of subjects, from investment, from gold coins, from holy dollars, and a whole range of other numismatic topics. We know Barry also from his foundation of the Australia Koala Foundation, particularly in the perhaps hundreds of thousands, if not more, lives of koalas that have been saved because of his advocacy and his foundational work, of which he is still a board member on that very active and even more important society today. We know Barry is a philanthropist from good works and is a leader in the Masonic world as well. But today Barry is going to be talking to us about shipwreck coins, and we note, Barry, that this is really cognate to people who find hoards and aggregations often after the ship is lost.
Yes.
All that's left of whole enduring history and heritage is a mass of coins. So we're looking forward very much to shipwreck coins and their stories.
Thank you, John. Well, hello, fellow numismatists. It's great to be here again, talking to you, and this is my subject that I've chosen. I've done lots of research on it. Those of you who are interested, you can look through my binders. There are more coins in the binders, plus the ones that are on the stage there. So let's begin by turning to the next slide. Thank you, Stephen. We're all fascinated by the sea and all its huge variety of moods. We respect the challenges and courage of those sailors in past decades who have ventured forth to discover new lands, discover silver and gold, and establish new colonies for their kings and queens. One can imagine the terror of boat people as a ship gets a leak and flounders, or during a sudden violent storm there is a jarring crack as the ship hits a reef or rocky shore. People are thrown into the raging sea, and all is lost in the depths of Davy Jones's locker. In our display there is a map of Australia's shipwreck coast, you can see here. It is estimated that over 140 shipwrecks are around King Island, over 100 around Flinders Island, over 1,000 wrecks around the coast of Tasmania, more than 8,000 around the coast of Australia, more than 3 million wrecks lying around the oceans of the world. Imagine that. Most of these sunken vessels contain food and supplies for their crew, as well as transported treasures of silver and gold and precious stores and artefacts for trade purposes. This talk illustrates a few of these shipwrecks where unique coins and artefacts have been discovered by daring divers who risk their lives encountering strong sea currents, sharks and dangerous sea creatures, and often get the bends and exhaustion as they linger too longer. Although such discoveries help us to understand past economies, how people lived and explored, and we have benefited from their courage and determination to venture forth across the seas into the unknown. So it's quite a story, isn't it, all the background there. I've been fascinated by the sea. I've sailed around most of the oceans of the world. I've flown over the seas. I've dived underneath the seas and come face to face with sharks, a variety of sea animals, and seen a few artefacts under the sea. So let's move on to the next slide. Thanks, Steve. The first European ship to reach the Australian mainland was the twin-masted Dutch ship, the Duke family. 1606, you can see where it was there. Searching for gold in New Guinea, it reached Cape York, mapped 300 kilometres of the coastline. Captain William Janzoon, the captain, left presuming Australia and New Zealand would join. Weeks later, Spanish explorer Luis de Torres sailed through Torres Strait and confirmed Australia could be a new continent. Next one, thank you. This is a picture of a reenacted dove gun called Little Dove. This twin-masted Dutch yacht was the first European ship to visit Australia in 1606, nearly 170 years before Captain Cook came to New Sydney Cove. 20 metres long, sailed from New Guinea, south coast in search of gold. Now the early shipwrecks in Australia you can see on this map. Other ships arrived, 1623 the Pira and Arnhem. Tasman discovered the south of Tasmania in 1642 and many areas of northwestern Australia in 1644. Dirk Hartog, 1616. Hootman in 1619. Lewin in 1622. Thurston, 1627. Wrecks were Trial in 1622. Gilt Dragon, 1656. Dorp, 1712. Batavia, well-known one, 1629. Zeewick, 1729, along the rugged Western Australia coast. So there are many others, but it's quite an interesting story of how so many discoveries were made along the Western Australian coast as more people journeyed south to this unknown new continent. This is an early partial map of terraced Australia, drawn from early 1600 to 1650. Gradual discovery of the Australian continent by explorers from Portugal, Spain, Holland, France and England. So you can see they're gradually building a picture with a little bit of Tasmania down the bottom. Good on Tasmania. Okay, next one, thank you. This is the diver is on the far right and he's taking a photo of the canyons at the bottom from the Dutch ship Batavia, when it struck a reef in the Houghton Abrolhos Islands, about 60 kilometres off the coast of West Australia in 1629. Discovered June 1963. Patrick Baker of the Western Australian Museum took this photo of the diver exploring the wreck and sighting cairns and many unusual naval artefacts. Oh, that's rather unusual. Next one, thanks. Now, there's a number of these certificates, and some people have got them, and this one shows a cob in the top right corner. You'll see it in the middle of the display here. The Western Australian Museum issues certificates for various shipwreck coins, and they preserve their status and verify their originality. This cob coin's from the Gilt Dragon ship, and you see that sign. That one is numbered 10,376. So there's been a number of certificates which have been issued. Next one, thank you. This is a map of this one over here. The large shows the many early sailing ships and steamers hit submerged reefs and rocky shores. Many lives were lost, and stories of many rescue attempts are part of our early naval folklore and history. If you look, you'll see a peacock just here. I've got a photograph, just notice his head's like that. I went to the Warrnambool Museum History and saw it. I think I spent an hour studying it. So I'll move to the next one, thank you. There's the peacock artefact. The Lockhart was wrecked in 1878. A cargo was washed ashore. It contained a magnificent Minton earthenware peacock destined for the Melbourne and Sydney exhibitions. This peacock is now shown at the Flagstaff Maritime Museum in Warrnambool. It's well worth a visit if you're ever around Warrnambool Way. And this is a magnificent creature which somehow survived all the shipwrecks. So it's quite an amazing thing. Okay, next one, thanks. Pieces of 8. There's the book here, Pieces of 8. And those of you who might have read this book, it's a great story of all the 8 reals that have been discovered all over the place, with lots of maps, mainly around well, the West Indies area. But it's quite fascinating. There's a gold imperial 8 escudo coin, reads the V, by the grace of God, 1714, specially struck for Spanish royalty, the Mexican City Mint, valued in 1966 10,000. I bid at an auction, as I often do, and gained another coin like it, and I've got that shown over here, if you'd like to have a look at it. So, next one, thank you. There's this gold doubloon. Bolivia, 1798, 12,800 reefs from the Potosi Mint. And the reverse is shown on the next slide. There it is there. Crown and coat of arms, 8 and S on either side of the coat of arms shows the 8 escudos value. So I'm quite happy to have that. That's my superannuation fund. Treasure Island. How many of you as a kid went to Treasure Island? I think that's where we probably learnt to the enthusiasm to study coins. I've read and reread the book. Page 242, Robert Louis Stevenson must have done a little bit of research, because in the book he says, English, French, Spanish, Portuguese, Georges and Louis doubloons and double guineas and moidores and sequins, the pictures of all the kings of Europe for the last 100 years, strange oriental pieces, round and square pieces, and pieces with holes in them, we know that, like the Chinese ones. Nearly every variety of money in the world. That was the discovery of the treasure that was eventually found in Treasure Island, according to him. So I found that quite fascinating, and all the maps and you can see some 8 reals and cobs in the book. So there's the story there. So if you haven't read the book, read it or reread it again. Okay, 8 real coins coming from Spain and their mints of Mexico and South America found their way to all corners of the world. And this is coins from the Lady Burgess, which was sunk on a dangerous reef on its way to India in 1808. A legacy of Spain's colonial past, this coin was struck from silver taken from the mines of Mexico. So everything's very international, how it moves around the world, and we find things which tell us the history eventually. So next one, thank you. There's the pieces of 8. I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with it. They find their way by trade or commerce, or by theft or pirates or buccaneers. Thereby runs a story that we all are familiar. So next one, thanks. Silver ducatoon. This 18th century silver coin from the, how do you say this, IV Ghent Hart, is dated 1711. It's been on the seabed for 250 years. Just imagine the story it could tell. Next one, thanks. The Dutch ship Indiaman ship was lost with all hands on the 3rd of February 1735. Discovered in 1981 after 3 years of searching for it. The details of ship and their shipwrecks and cargo are often found in museums and places where they originate from, and early divers and researchers spent a lot of research going through these libraries, trying to work out where the ship could have gone down, and spent a lot of money sending divers down into hopeful places. Nowadays, you've got electronic equipment which helps to discover where they might be, and that's a story in itself. So I try to get certificates of origin to authenticate anything that I get. So there's a bit of a story there on that. The ducatoon. Okay, next, thanks. The Vogel Drac or Gilt Dragon. This ship was wrecked off the coast of West Australia 28th of April 1656 on a reef about 120 kilometres north of Perth. The ship contained 300 people and goods worth 106,400 florins. 8 chests of silver, the value then of 78,600 guilders. That's the one that I'm referring to down here. The wreck illustrates the dangers of early sea travel to this unknown part of the world. 75 of the 193 survivors made it to the shore. Isn't that terrible? 2 Dutchmen, Walter Loos and Jan Pelgrom de Bry, are regarded as the first European residents on the Australian continent. 2 ruined huts at West Wallaby Island are the oldest structures built by Europeans in Australia. So that's of interest, isn't it? Okay, next one, thanks. 8 real coin was closed in the Douro in 1960. Contained, as I said, 106,400 florins and silver worth 78,600 florins. That would be probably a cob. Would you say that was a cob rather than an 8 real coin?
Well, they're both.
Both, yeah.
It's a cob style 8 reals.
Yeah. There we are. Next one. El Cazador. Destined for America and loaded with massive cargoes of newly struck silver 1 real coins, the Spanish warship El Cazador sank without a trace in 1784. Discovered in 1993, these historic coins were never used in circulation. And I've got one which you can see down at the bottom there, and it's shown here. So that's another little one. Again, they tell the story in their certificate of authenticity. East India Company, British 3-decker vessel built in 1796, the Admiral Gardner, left the UK with a cargo of 46 tonnes of newly minted copper coinage to pay the employees in Madras and Bengal, sank in a storm in the Goodwin Sands. And there's a story there. There are 2 coins shown, and I've got lots of those. I have another book which is full of stories about other coins, shipwrecks. So I've got more stories about that in that book. So that's a story of the Admiral Gardner. Next one. Oh, this is the reverse of that particular one. You can see on the map the way the ship came through. Shows the outward route from England to India. It lay undisturbed for 180 years before being salvaged. Access was only available 1 hour, twice a day in rough seas. So imagine the divers having to time their time to go down underneath with currents and big waves and so on. So their lives were quite at risk, but the incentive to get the treasure was very strong. Okay, next one. Titanic. Recently in Brisbane we had an exhibition of the Titanic, and I think that exhibition went to other states and cities. Very interesting to see reenactment of all the items inside the ship. This White Star liner hit an iceberg on the 15th of April 1912. Only 705 souls were saved out of 2358 passengers and crew. There were not enough lifeboats, and those that fell into the freezing waters perished within a few hours. You've seen films about this, and you've seen the stories. I've got 2 binders of a whole lot of information about the Titanic, and a map showing photographs, coloured photographs underneath the sea, taken by various instruments. And it's a fascinating story. Next one, thanks. There was a survivor, 2 months old Milvina Dean was the youngest passenger on board the doomed ship. She died at age 97 in May 2009. There's a bit of a story there from a newspaper article. Turn over the next one, thanks. And there's her signature. They have anniversary. This is the 81st anniversary of the maiden voyage, and all related relatives of people who died attended this. And there's a souvenir thing, and they get, Melvin assigned 100 of those, and if you go through one of my binders, you'll see not only this one signed, but another one. She signed one the subsequent year. So it's nice to have a little bit of an artefact by a survivor, actual survivor. There she is, that's the 1992 convention of the sinking. She signed a second record held in Southampton, England. So it's quite a story to that, and how remiss of the organisers of the ship not to provide enough lifeboats for all the passengers, because they thought it was unsinkable. But nothing is certain in life. Okay, next one. Yes, I have 2 coins were issued in 2000, $10 silver and $25 in gold. They are unique as they include original coal in the coin, recovered from the Titanic wreck. I've got this little coin here, you can all look at it. And in the middle of this little coin is a piece of coal taken from the bottom of the sea near the Titanic. I've got a little bit of the Titanic on this coin. So there we go. So there's the 2 coins that are shown there. I don't know what they're worth now, but probably a little bit more than what I paid for them. Next one, thanks. That picture didn't come out very well, but if you want to look at the actual thing, you'll see it. That's the Titanic gold. Next one. Now, the Rostrum Congressional, gee, I didn't spell that, I left the N out. Congressional Gold Medal was presented to Captain Rostrum for the part he played in the rescue of survivors of the Titanic. And there you see this medal struck for his work in the answered an SOS call and raced to where he thought the ship was sinking. Didn't get there in time and got to help the survivors who were in the lifeboats. And for his part, they gave him a message. And the Carpathia was the ship that did it. Have any of you seen this medal before? It's an unusual one. If you give the next slide, you show the reverse. Now this reverse shows them all with nothing on. You think those survivors would at least put some clothing on, wouldn't you?
It'd have been cold.
It'd be very cold because in immersion, if they're only in water, quarter of an hour, 10 minutes, they wouldn't perish. So there we go. You can see how desperate the situation would be. So that's interesting. Another relic and artefact of the Titanic. A commemorative medal issued by the British Royal Mint in 2011. The centenary of the ship's sinking was in 1911. There you see it, silver medal showing the Titanic going through the seas. Next one, thank you. The Flying Hut left ramekins in Holland in 1735, richly laden with gold and silver coins and goods for trading, with a pilot boat Minucos to guide them. Both sank off the coast of Zealand on the hidden shores with a loss of 461 sailors, soldiers and merchants. And this is one of the cobs that were found. It's probably suffered a lot through the sea washing it, but it's still enough to identify it as a cob. Next one, thanks. Spanish piece of 8 exhibit certified in the wreck. I also go into silver Dutch ducatoons dated 1711, 1734, with their certificates of authenticity. They're in the binders here. 3 chests of silver coins were discovered during 1980. With a ban on the coin's export, this illegal booty has been smuggled away still in mint condition. Look at the unusual shape of the cob on the right. Unusual, isn't it? Okay, next. There we are, the reverse form of those 2 coins. Unusual. Next one. The association. This UK flagship was a 96 gunship left Gibraltar in 1707 during a huge gale. On the 22nd of October, she struck a reef and sank off the Isles of Scilly. 800 lives were lost. In 1973, 7 chests of bullion were raised by divers. Included was an 8 real Potosi mint, 1693, made by, to make these cobs, they have silver blank of 8 real, Spanish reals, and a hammer with a hand-wrought die, recreating this irregular shape. It's rather interesting to see how they did it in the early days. There's the cob then, and a description of it with a story about it and the background to it. Next one, thanks. Now here's something different. You know the story about how the Japanese midget submarines came into Sydney Harbour? They were left from their mother ship, they came in, managed to get in, and they sunk a hospital ship, I think it was, at Sydney Harbour. And they also fired guns in some of the suburbs in Sydney and appeared elsewhere. So it was quite an interesting story. And I've got the folder containing some glasswool, which was insulation between the plates of the batteries, supplying the power to drive the motors of Japanese midget submarine. This is just an artefact, and it's on the top left over my there. Turns out there's the insulation glasswool. I thought that was an artefact, so I included it in the story. Okay, next one. Delhi Fort, the Taj Mahal sunken treasure trove of duits found in Ceylon, now Sri Lanka, in the spice route of the Orient. And this is a story of how the Gully Fort was sunk and many years later recovered. This coin I've got here is a Netherlands copper duit, and the story is a young Sri Lankan boy digging around an old home in Galley discovered a treasure chest overflowing with duits. Imagine his surprise and joy. Possibly buried by its owner when the British invaded Ceylon in 1796. So I'm sure there are many circumstances like that where people bury the coins in the ground hoping to come back and get them later on. This happened in England with all the hoards, and here in Ceylon somebody did the same thing. An innocent little boy discovered it just by digging in the ground. So another interesting story. So there's a Galley Fort coin. Lady Burgess. This coin was struck from silver mined from the Spanish colony in Peru in South America. And a couple of them are shown there, which I've got on the right-hand side here, with the stories attached to them. 1799, 8 real coin came from the East India Company, which owned the Lady Burgess, recovered in the early 1990s. Not a very clear picture, but you can see it clear over here. Next one. There are 2 different 8 real coins. Guess what? The one on the left is a fake. And there are a lot of stories of fake coins. And you can see it clearer, it's over here on the right-hand side. So even these 8 real coins are shown, can be seen as fake. Probably made in China, as you suggested. So one has to be very careful. So there we are. So that's just a glimpse of the coinage from Shipwreck coins. It's such a huge story. I've been reading these books which you can skim through. You can look at the photographs, you can look at the coins, but it's a huge story which I gain a lot of enjoyment and learning about the discoveries, and in the process you learn about history and geography and arts and science and what happened to past rulers and how they wanted to preserve their coinage and their hoards for future use, but lost it all through unforeseen circumstances of shipwrecks. So it's rather strange how all this happens. So
Thank
there
you
we
so
go.
much, Barry. That's wonderful. And do we have a minute or two for questions or discussion?
One question. You mentioned that a lot of the ships were travelling, well, one at least, was coming down from New Guinea, down the east coast,
Yeah.
looking for gold. Did
Silver
they
and
go
gold.
on the land or were they?
No, they originally were doing it in Papua New Guinea.
Yes.
That's where they were originally looking for it.
What, on the land?
On the land, the ship goes close to shore, sends a longboat out and starts looking amongst the rivers and everywhere, probably looking amongst the river with the gold coming down and then moving up the river to find more deposits. So that's how they were trying to discover something for the future.
Did they have gold on them?
I
Did
don't
they find
know,
gold?
I don't know the back of that background, but that's their mission, was to do that, and in the process they discovered.
I don't think there's a lot of riverine gold to be found in New Guinea, but they didn't know that until they went to look.
Yeah, exactly.
Barry, I understand that forensic numismatists, when they find a shipwreck accumulation amongst the coral, look at it all and they see all the dates of the coins, they can work out the date of the shipwreck must have occurred after the last date of the coin was found.
That's right.
And I know that my colleagues in the world of forensic numismatics use a Latin phrase, terminus post quam, and by analysing a hoard, whatever the hoard contains, they can find out or make an estimate before which the hoard must be buried or has gone down with the ship. It's a very chastening thing to think that in future decades, or perhaps centuries, when the wreck of the airliner, the Malaysian airliner, is finally found, and there will be coins and things in the pockets of all those poor people that were killed in that incident, that the last date will be the year.
Yes, that's right.
The coin is in their pockets.
Before I finish, may I just mention a little incident that on a few days ago, Monday the 9th of June, John and I were at a special function which was the 50th anniversary of the Order of Australia Association in Queensland. And the governor produced a coin for it. And this coin has got the crown and the flag with 50 years. So you can have a look at that. And guess who was the guest speaker at that meeting? And John kindly got up at the guest speaker and mentioned the Numismatic Society and how 3 members were in the audience and how medals were and coins were so important, like you did earlier. So that was a wonderful gesture, John.
Thank you, Barry. Well, and thank you for this magnificent display today. It's wonderful displays, every one, but this one also contains such detail and so apposite to the talk that you've given. Barry, thank you so much. And on behalf of all of us, a unique coin from Rod and the Australian Numismatic Society.
Thank you, John.
Come in front.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Barry. Well, we're privileged now to have a presentation from Ross Pratley. Ross is, as we all know, a professional numismatist and is a retired coin dealer himself. He was the founder and principal of Coin Colony. It's wonderful to have you with us, Ross, with your knowledge, and we note today you're commissioning and designing the coins for the sesquicentenary of Sydney and for the royal visit to Sydney. It's a great privilege to have you as our member, of course, and speaking here today. And we note also in talking with you that you're the editor of the Postal Order Journal for the International Society of Collectors of Postal Orders. We're also delighted with your role following retirement as an ornithologist and your particular skill in breeding the very rare an exclusive Electus Paris.
Really?
So it's one, we look forward in future conferences to a presentation of the Electus Paris.
If I've still
On
got
coin.
them next time, I think I might bring one up for each of them as a gift.
We're looking forward to a medal with the Electus Paris.
Oh, right.
But Ross's presentation today, as we've seen
Yes, something.
here, Ross,
Revisiting the heroes.
you can hold in your hand a unique banknote. Ross Pratley.
Yeah. We'll talk about that. Right, now, what am I going to do? Find it. Oh, that's a good idea, isn't it? Is it working? What's this?
While we're waiting,
That's
would
what
anybody
this
like
time.
to make any further questions to Barry Scott? We have, yes,
Oh, not
David.
one. When you're in Warrnambool and around Port Fairy and so on, there's this
Speak
myth,
up,
I don't
Dave.
know if it's a myth, of the mahogany ship.
All right.
Have you learned about that?
In the museum, it probably would have details, and it was quite a few years ago when I went there, but I then saw a lot of ships there.
Right. The mahogany ship, as I understand, was supposed to be the wreck of a Portuguese caravel of the 16th century,
All right,
and would have been one of the very earliest
right,
visits by Europeans to Australia,
yeah,
before most of the Dutch.
right.
Because remember, it was the Dutch that actually
Yeah.
conquered the Portuguese trading
Yes, yes,
empire,
yeah.
and this was before then. So
Yeah.
did they have any display or anything?
Well, we've all gone on our criteria to, we'll look to see the museum when we visit Warrnambool.
That's right.
We'll
Right.
continue the discussion. Afterwards. Thank you.
All right.
Ross.
I, like David, is definitely a gold buck, you know. Very, very keen on gold. And to that end, I honestly think world currencies are stuffed with all the debt that's around, and gold will remain really strong. In fact, it hit a new level. Anybody know, like, you must have a sovereign at home. I'll shut that one up. Yeah, I guess it'll stop searching. How much do you think there is in gold in a sovereign? Anyone?
Today?
Today?
1200?
Yeah, well,
It's
how much in Australian dollars?
about 1400, 1450.
No, you're getting a little ahead. But anyway, it hit a new high overnight. It's Australian dollars an ounce, 5,287. And that equates to $124 purely the gold value in a sovereign. Any condition.
There's a lot more than 100. It's close. It's over 1,000.
$124.
It's over 1,000.
It's
Oh,
it's
it will.
0.24, 0.24 ounce.
1,240.
Yeah.
Older.
Yeah.
We were listening.
I'll leave the glasses on. Now, we got rather excited. On a Thursday, we received our monthly coin review, and I see this picture on the front, and I'm just going bananas, and wondering what it's all about, because I hadn't heard anything about the Douro cargo. So we'll go to the next one, please. And we were drawn to it pronto. So Thursday, Saturday or Sunday, I had to attend a mate's 50th birthday. We came back in the afternoon, I believe, from the birthday party. The boys were at home. We threw the things in the suitcases. We walked out, and three of them shook our hands, and we said, "Oh, be good." In fact, a black girl's hand came in between one of them and said, "Hello, Mr. Pratley." I didn't want to know about it. Just we headed for the airport, and off we went. When one of the boys had helped pack the bags. When we get to London, winter time, it was in November, around the 20th of November. Unpack the bag and find I've got single socks and about a 30 centimetre lizard that's still alive. So unfortunately I had to bag the lizard and put him in the park next door. But anyway, off to Spinks to view the auction. Let's have the next one, please.
This is your video, isn't it?
Yeah, it might be. So this will give you a little bit of an insight into recovering the gold and how they set it up in Spink in London. All the major dealers have gone over there, you look at the likes of Bob Jaggard, Monetarium, and so on. Met the salvaging guy. He ended up autographing a cassette for me, and I got the cassette urgently transferred over to a stick so we could present this to So to see the coins now, they weren't looking like that when they salvaged them.
That's not good.
Over 100 years ago, after a collision, a Royal Mail steamer, the Douro, sank in the Atlantic. It was carrying more than 28,000 gold coins. The wreck was at last located in 1993 and the treasure salvaged. It is now being auctioned at an historic sale at Spink & Son in London.
This is a 1600 rice of Brazil, struck in Bahia, dated 1782, of Pedro Maria. Very pretty, the conjoined busts of King and Queen. But what's remarkable about this is that it's in such superb condition. And interesting enough, this coin and the previous coin of 1773 are the only two minor early coins. These coins did circulate and are extremely difficult to find, generally in any condition, but in this condition, really quite remarkable, and we have great expectations of this. Again, this very well could be one of the star items in the sale.
Sold for £6,600
from Australia, Brazil, Portugal, and Great Britain. Okay, the fact that they were found in a wreck obviously adds to the interest, and it's undoubtedly there'll be considerable interest because of that. As terms of the value of the coins, I mean, it's very difficult to ascertain how much more a coin will go for because it's from a wreck, but certainly at the lower levels, i.e. the cheaper coins but in mint condition, the value will be enhanced considerably.
New developments in satellite positioning systems and salvage technology made possible the discovery of the Douro treasure. But before salvage could begin, the wreck had to be found and identified. As the exploration vessel set out, it was relying on the accuracy of years of archival research by Nigel Pickford.
One of the main problems we encountered with looking for the Douro was the number of other Victorian steamers in the area. We had far too many targets to choose from, all looking very similar size, similar period. It was a real black spot around there, both for founderings and collisions. The collision took place on a perfect night from a navigation point of view, clear, medium full moon. But the chief officer and his quartermaster were busy setting sail, putting sails up, because it was a sailing ship as well as a steamer. And I think they were distracted by that, and therefore just hadn't noticed the Spanish ship approaching.
The Douro was on her way from Brazil to Southampton via Lisbon when she went down. In conjunction with marine salvage expert Sverker Holstrom, owner of the survey ship Scorpio, the search area was reduced to 150 square miles in the Bay of Biscay.
Sir Galstrom undertook to do that physical search of the seabed, and which went on for 2 years. The most exciting moment for Spurker, as he told me, was when he finally zoomed in on this plate, which was half immersed in mud, and noticed that it had the word Royal on it, and it had the Royal Mail seahorse crest on it, and that was absolute proof, because though there were lots of other ships lost in that area, there were no other Royal Mail steamers lost in that area, and therefore then he was sure that he'd found his target.
Deep Sea Worker Limited, renowned for pioneering work salvaging cargoes from the deep, retrieved 98% of the gold coins using their specially designed grab system.
Incredible how they turned out.
The coins, now at Spink in London,
Yeah, good old
are
Spink.
being prepared for auction.
We couldn't even get a cup of tea out of them while we're doing the viewing.
And rated.
You had to view so quickly
Spink
because we had
holds
such
unique position
limited
as
time.
the oldest
Or there were so
established
many
coin dealer
items
in
to
the
look at.
world, and as an auctioneer.
Essentially, one of the
He's a good
strengths
guy,
of
that.
being a coin dealer and an auctioneer, which is a unique combination, is that, of course, we've put together and formulated collections for really well over 100 years. Whereas if you're just an auctioneer, you put together your sale and hope people turn up to the sale to a certain extent. But we actually write to all our clients, we write to the individuals, we write to collectors and say, by the way, there's a lot of dates in your collection that
didn't
you
write to
need,
me.
and they're in this cell, for example. So that sort of combination is really ideal for something like this.
Spink and Son also have a high reputation for a number of specialist departments.
Spink was founded in 1666 by John Spink, who was a goldsmith, and he dealt in plate and jewellery. But now Spink is a thoroughly modern and international company. We have galleries in London, New York and Singapore, and we have 14 different departments here, and you will find objects from all corners of the globe.
This is my favourite coin, because it's not rare, it's just so superb in condition. It's absolutely brilliant in state.
Remember them with all the mud on them and such?
6,400.
Yeah.
Struck my ear. So, the real, the first, wonderful, brilliant fingers, it's beautiful sharp strike, it's absolutely crisp. Even picking it up, you can feel the sharpness of the edge, it's absolutely crisp in you. And that's really the reason why I like this coin. It is so beautifully presented.
I've got the catalogue here all marked. That's just incredible.
But in the way in which the historical research becomes a physical reality, that's really rather satisfying. It's this business of searching for something and then finding it. I think it's always fulfilling. Someday you come up with a handful of sovereigns.
So they didn't hold it by the edge in those days, eh?
By the buckets. I think that's the end of it. So we'll go on to the next one. Yes, these were features in the book. I'll pass the catalogue around and have a browse through it. Yep, next one. I didn't bid for the Dolphins, but one of these I did. Yeah, as I say, you're just taken in by, you couldn't believe the condition of them. They're there in their hundreds, sort of thing, and the odd auctions before, you're lucky if you see a couple of pieces of them. So we'll move along. Australian gold's my forte, and that's the one I'm keen about, especially half sovereigns. No half sovereigns in it. That's a nice 1866.
That's Kevin. Press the button on the bottom. There you go.
Yeah.
Don't look in it.
When I'm viewing these coins, what I'm looking for are the details around here. Obviously clear surfaces as much as possible, but you know, in the minting techniques, extremely hard to find. They're going for these mint state gradings, but extremely hard to get up to mint state 62 and onwards.
There's a die crack through Britannia.
Pardon?
I said there's a die crack through Britannia.
Yeah. Well, once again, you know, they would have received the dies from England and used them as far as they could go. With the half sovereigns, there would have been multiple uses with them. Obviously, the high points in the crown are another way where to look for them, and the lettering. All right, next one. Now, with the St George reverse, the early St George reverses from the Melbourne Mint are scarce to rare. And what I'm looking for there, to see this curl, and it's usually either not there or definitely worn. So to have one with the curl, that's rather good. You can still see some rim nits. And then on the horse, St George on the horse, I'm looking for the garter around here, and now that was a group of 10 sovereigns and sold for £750.
75 pound each.
Yeah, wonderful.
And in amongst it, like the 79, this one was easily EF or better. All right, next. Then we come into the shield reverses. Once again, I'm looking for the curl, which is not on that coin.
Douro
That's how worn they are, yet it's got a die crack through the middle of the date. I'm looking for the definition of the lion's heads here and the heart with the markings there. But once again, what were they? 10 sovereigns sold, £650. So that's plus the gas, of course. All right, next.
That plus the what?
The buyer's premium.
Right.
I'm getting with the Stuart Wright lingo there. He calls it the gas.
Do you remember what the buyer's premium percentage was in the
I think it was about 17%. It's in the catalogue. Didn't you read the catalogue?
No, missed that bit.
Oh, did you? Okay. Now these were interesting. I scored this one. I thought I was ending up against Barry Windsor, but a concreted lump of gold, sand, iron and other debris from the seabed. It's the safest way, but it was about that sort of size, but interesting. So, estimate £2,000 to £3,000. I got it for 4,800 with 14 sovereigns visible. Quite interesting. Next one. Right. So this was the super one that I bid and bid for. There was no chance of me buying it. I only found out afterwards. It was for an Arab sheik who wanted it as a paperweight on his desk.
Oh, no.
I did have 40 sovereigns, so it was about twice the size of the one I got. All right, next. Yeah, we did buy that, the Portuguese dish. I think I'm in love with snakes or something, but it looked better than that really, and so we got that for £1,150.
It didn't come with those coins though.
No, the coins were missing. I nearly returned it. But it's interesting what happened later. Anyway, next. The head of the Douro. A damaged copper toilet. This was the final lot. With damaged china bowl, was decorated with blue floral pattern, part of the flushing mechanism attached. 20 mil high. Or, the bowl 14 mil diameter, in need of attention, but a most unusual souvenir of the Douro, and surely fitting into the sale of the cargo. £200 to £400 was flushed to a buyer at £495. The sale realised just over £1.5 million. All right, next.
Were you flushed with success?
Pardon?
Were you flushed with success?
Oh, yeah, definitely. No, I was pretty excited actually, but one of the persons I thought I was buying for reneged on me, so we had to just borrow a bit more money to pay for it all. But this is when the fun started, was when I got back, because I've been a very honest coin dealer and traveller, so I just gladly show them the coins when I came back. But I had the darn artefacts, and I thought, oh, they're no big deal. But that darn dish, you know, caused all sorts of things. So I was marshalled off. Carol was allowed to exit. And they sent the first bloke to me and said, you know, have you got certification for the antiquities? No. I've got the catalogue, and you know, you can read about it in the catalogue. Oh, no, it's got to be certified. We'll have to lock up all the coins and the artefacts, and you'll have to get them authorised. I said, right, well, you're taking them from me. Yes, we'll lock them away. I said, right, well, some of them don't belong to me, so I'd have to stay with them and you'll have to lock me up as well. Well, we've got somebody different. So they bring in another bloke with more braids, things for me. They inquired more with me. And this went on for about an hour. Heaven knows what Carol was feeling outside, but she probably thought, oh, I'll have to go and visit him in Long Bay or something, Stillwater. So the head shrink came and he had extra braids and that, and he said, look, if you can get them authorised within the next few days, you take them all and they'll be fine. And I said, well, as a matter of fact, I've got the guy who can authorise them. And he was my Barloo in the Cub Pack. I was the art Barlow. And he was Charles Aronson. I don't know whether you heard of Aronsons at all, but that was about a third generation antique dealership. We had an uncanny time in the Cubs because he'd been in the army too, and I'd done CMF, and we did outrageous things with the Cub, but that's another story. So Charles duly ended up signing the forms, and I took them back to them, but I'd already taken the stuff home. You know, it was fine, but it was like this at one stage. The items, the coins went up for sale at Jim's. I hung on to some. I meant to bring some, but they're at home somewhere with Peter's book. And I guess that's about the end of that. The Monetarium did different things. They put little portfolios together and had the Douro cargoes. I can pass that around.
Must finish.
Right, must finish. All right, we'll finish. Any questions?
Ross, they seem to have done a marvellous job of cleaning the coins.
Well, imagine the time they spent.
Yeah. Do they use something like nitric acid or what?
I don't know.
You don't need to with gold. Gold
Save water.
Yeah, wash it off with high pressure water and it's fine.
Yeah, that's an interesting note. You're lucky you did it when you did, because nowadays, of course, 10% flat GST over the total value payable before they let you take it away.
Yeah, well, I'm getting caught that way because I keep buying things, and what I'm doing is I'm sending them to an address in England, and then they're sending them on to me, and that seems to be working well. I know it's a bit of cheating, but the amount of extras, it makes it really impossible. And just the postage. I had an envelope sent to me the other day with a few postal orders in it. £25 postage. Yep.
What happened to the lizard?
No, look, we just go. My life's full of go. And I'm slowing down. That's why I'm making mistakes.
We haven't noticed it, Brett.
No. It was in a park. I don't know what happened to the lizard. I haven't.
George Snellgrove wrote an article, which I've got amongst my things here, about the Dunbar. You might be interested in having a little look at this afterwards.
Okay.
It's amongst quite a lot. Yeah.
Sure.
And do you have some of the coins still in your own personal collection?
Yes. Well, they're worth still buying. What's crazy with the gold is I've just got more and more into it in the last, say, 2 years. I've been sprinkling along. We sold out in about 1989 to buy this property at Smith's Lake. But I've still had an interest in it. But I'm buying coins now that sold for 30 and 40,000 in 2010 at the quartermaster sale, and I'm buying them for between $5,000 and $10,000.
Gee.
You know, like, it just doesn't make sense. And some of the coins that we sold back in the, what I go for is any coins that especially the half sovereigns, that are in better condition than what I sold back in 1989. Because I know we worked awfully hard for about 10 years putting a half sovereign collection together back then. And what's another crazy thing, there's been about 5 1855 half sovereigns sold in the last year. And it's, you know, like, it's supposed to be the rarest of rare.
Well, we'll continue the discussion.
Yeah, I get carried. Yeah, get rid of me.
No, thank you so much.
That's fine. Oh, you want
The medal.
to photo with us?
Medal?
No, they haven't minted it yet. I didn't think I was coming. It has to be in the post.
In the post. In the post.
Well, can you use it?
$25 postage.
They should have one.
That's all right. Thanks.
Just do
Okay.
a mock present.
There. Thank you. Thank you, Ross.
Here, for the photo. John, for the
Oh,
photo.
okay, can we do the...
Ross, for the photo.
We've got a prop. We're not allowed to keep this gracious.
Oh, thank you. A unique medal. Bernie's very generous. Thanks, Bernie.
Generous but vigilant.
And thanks, Stephen, for helping me, and John Minucos. Oh, dear. It's lovely, Ross. Thank you. It's lovely to hear everyone professional. Well, colleagues, our anchor for today is John Minucos. John's again, a young, recently retired librarian, where he was librarian for TAFE Sydney for years, and it brings to the podium here a great detail of scholarship in that background. John has been a member of our society, the Australian Numismatic Society, for the last 16 years, and he has special interests in two particular areas of numismatics.
I think you've got my...
Both in banknotes
You've got this...
and in Ionian currency as well. So we're looking forward very much to your presentation today.
How long have I got?
You've got exactly 30 minutes.
Okay, well, let's exactly. Ionian Islands coins under British rule. I think most of you probably already know, but England had control of a string of islands in Greece from 1814. So it actually started taking them over in 1814. And they gave them to Greece in 1964. Can we go to you'll see there reproductions of the coins they produced and the flag they had for the place. Just go to the next slide, please.
It's doing an update.
Okay, well, I like these coins, and the associated banknotes are my favourite part of my collection, because the Ionian Islands are a part of Greece on the west coast. They were held by Venice until 1797, I think it was, and then they started passing around during the Napoleonic Wars. I like the design. I like the fact that they're multicultural, because they have Greek writing, they have Britannia, and they have the Venetian lion, the Lion of St. Mark. And also they're specific for the part of Greece that my parents came from. My parents came from an island called Kythera. It's sort of tagged on to the Ionian Islands. It's not really part of them culturally, but it's tagged onto them. And so these things didn't circulate through the whole of Greece. They just circulated basically in the area that my parents came from. Can we next slide, please? Those yellow islands are the ones that are the main ones in the Ionian Islands. Kythera, where my parents came from, is, you can see tagged on at the end. It was not what you call a desirable place. If anybody in any of the other islands played up while the British were there, they exiled them to Kythera. Not quite as nice. Actually, it is as nice, but it's more poverty-stricken. They were. The reason I got the second map there is to show you why they were important. Corfu had a very large fortress on it, very powerful fortress. And you can see from there they could control who went up to the Adriatic, and so that's one of the reasons the British got them. Can we just go to the next one? So, Venice gained control in 1204 when the Fourth Crusade was on. The Fourth Crusade set up to the Holy Land. They got to Constantinople, took Constantinople, thought, why would we go anywhere else? We've already got what we want here. The Crusaders wanted land, they had land. The Venetians, who were transporting them, wanted control of the islands, so they could control maritime trade. And then they had the islands, and so there was no point going on anywhere to the...
to actually fight Muslims, yeah.
The Pope, I think his name is the Pope that had organised the whole thing and set it going was Pope Innocent III. I really think his name is appropriate. He excommunicated them, but they sort of didn't care, I think. Over the next 7 centuries, with fighting on and on, the Turks took all of those islands for themselves, except for the ones on the Ionian Islands. And they were the only ones that remained under Venetian rule. Can we just go to the next slide? In the Napoleonic War, when Napoleon conquered Italy, he then also gained control of Venice and all its territories, whatever was left. And so then after that, the islands changed hands a couple of times during the Napoleonic Wars. One of the first things that happened was, for the first time ever in history, Russians and the Turks got together and went and took over those islands from the French, because they both were fighting the French. The French took them back, English then took them themselves. And finally, in 1815, England acquired protectorate over them. Next slide. The United States of the Ionian Islands. There it is in Italian and also in Greek. And it was a federation. Each of the islands sent representatives to a Corfu, was where the Parliament sat, but each of them sent representatives to Parliament. There was a when the Venetians were there, they had an aristocracy, and each island had a libro d'oro, a book of gold, and that's where all the aristocrats had their names written in. That's where if you had a son or a child or a daughter, you went with that libro d'oro. The French became popular when they took over, because being revolutionary, the first thing they did, they burned all those books. But the aristocracy was still there. The British took them because they were of strategic importance. By the 1850s, with the coming of steamships, and especially steam warships, they really didn't have that much importance militarily anymore. And then the British tried to make money out of them, but they couldn't work out a way to make them profitable. So in 1862, they ceded them to Greece. In 1864, there was a new king came into Greece, and they said, well, here's your birthday present, or here's your coronation present, just go to the islands. So they were united with Greece in 1864. And the king was actually a Danish prince. What had happened was the great powers didn't want a republic in Greece, so they had installed a king, for a Bavarian prince. And the Greeks and he didn't get along with each other. And eventually there was a rebellion against him. He was kicked out and was stopped. The great powers still didn't want a republic, so they found somebody from Denmark, and that was the man that became the king. Danish. Got enough names there, hasn't he? Christian, William, Ferdinand, Adolf, George. He took the name George as king. He was George I. Next slide. And they had a constitution in 1817, and that's a medal. I've got one of them there, if you want to look later. But that's the medal they produced to celebrate the granting of the constitution. What happened was Britain took a protectorate, and then there was a resident in each island, a British resident, who explained, who gave advice to people on what they should actually do, and there was a British garrison to back up his advice. Next slide. There weren't banknotes circulating originally. But what happened was the British, well, I'll get back to the coins in a minute, but since there weren't any banknotes circulating, other countries had them. The Ionian Bank was set up, and it was set up in 1830 something, I think.
It's on the next slide.
It's on the next slide, yeah. Okay, but what they did, they had a variety of, I don't know, they started off with shillings and pounds, a variety of denominations. They started off with shillings and pounds, then they went to colonata. I don't know why they didn't stick with those. Then they went to colonata. I don't know where that name comes from, really. If anybody can enlighten me, that'd be good.
From the word colony?
No, there's been a suggestion it was a South American denomination. And I know that it's been used in one South American country today, but I don't know if it was being used then. So I have no idea. But what I thought about it was interesting to see that the sign for a colonnatus looks like a dollar sign today. And on the, over here you'll see, this was that was a seal of the United Nations, English flag, and the Ionian flag on that side. Next slide. Oh, there it is, yeah. It was established in 1839. It's still there today. It's a numismatic museum. Do any of you remember George Casson?
Yeah.
Yeah. He went there to have a look at it. He got there and it was shut. And he said, what the hell? And some workman there said, well, it shuts every Tuesday, or whatever it was. That was when George was saying that it was shut. He said, to George started going, and the guy said, well, what do you want me to do? So anyway, it was shut. But apparently it was a very good museum. But they had the right to issue banknotes. In 1845, they received a royal charter, expanded outside of the Ionian Islands. And in 1864, when Greece joined with, when the Ionian Islands became part of Greece, then they switched over to producing drachmas, which paralleled the Greek drachmas.
Where is the bank? In which island is it?
Corfu.
In Corfu.
But they had branches in Zakynthos and Kefalonia as well. They had branches in the main islands, and then they had branches in Athens as well. Well, they had agencies to begin with in parts of Greece. When they united with Greece, those agencies became branches. Next slide. Okay, there's a pound from that time. You might be able to see on the left-hand side, it's the text is in Greek. The right-hand side, the text is in English, and the promissory payment in the back is Italian. And you'll see there, this is actually, it says Douro. That's from a £2 note, but they were all identical.
Is that Italian?
Yeah, that's Italian here.
Yeah. Officially, the language the language was Italian for about 20 years. Not Greek. Next slide. Okay, and that's when they started producing after 1864. That banknote there, the bottom one, front and the reverse, except for the colouring, and except for the name of the bank at the top, Ionian Drachmas Unlimited. I like that. The first two words are in Greek and the second and the last one is in English. Oh, that's one of the things I really like about it. But except for that, and except for the colouring, it's the same as any of the banknotes produced in Greece. And that was true of all the lower value ones. The higher value ones were different, and that's one as you can see up the top. Akiron means cancelled. I don't know why it's been bisected, but I find that.
Make sure it's cancelled.
No, it's not. They punched holes to cancel. And that's what some of you might know. George Casson used to collect the punched ones, the ones that were reissued.
One thing they often used to do with banknotes back in the day, it depends on the culture, for safety they would cut them in half and put one on one boat and another on another boat.
Oh, yeah.
That way at least half of it got there.
Well, that might be, that's the information that hadn't occurred to me. The other thing is the Greeks for a long time, they would, if you had, because they had low denomination notes and that were scarce, if you had a 10 drachma note, you could cut it in half and you got 2 5s.
Oh.
And that was legitimate and legal. And they did that for a long time, but that's dated 90 something. It's not signed, so it wasn't issued. But by that stage, they stopped doing that.
And if it's unissued, then wouldn't have been for circulation reasons.
No, I have no idea. If you see the back of it, it says, one of the things about it on the back, it says it's worth 100 francs. Europe, they have, what do they call it?
Latin
Monetary Union, yeah. The Latin Monetary Union, Greece was part of that, and everybody was producing coins, going back to the gold, but they're producing coins that were the same size and weight as each other's
As the
coins.
French franc.
Yeah, so that was the same as a French franc. I've got here for the for those coins there that I've got. These are Australian coins, but they're the same thing. The threepence is the same size as the silver coin, and the pennies and the halfpennies are the same size as some of those other coins as well. And that explained me when I was a kid. My parents used to call a penny a decada. Deca is 10, so they called it a tenner. That cost 5 tenors. So why would they call it a tenner? You know, the pennies have got nothing to do with 10. But it turns out that 10 lepta is the equivalent of a penny.
Yeah.
And
So 10 lepta or 10 centimes in France, yes.
Yeah, yes.
Centimes
So
a penny.
10 lepta was exactly the same. So that explained that to me. And that's why I brought these, so if you want to have a look at them later, you can compare them to the sizes of the ones I've got there. Okay, next one, please. Oh, and that's just a coin they produced in 2014 to celebrate the 150th anniversary of the union of the islands with Greece. It's just a €2 coin. And they've got the symbols for all the different islands. Unfortunately, the fools have put Kithra at the bottom there, instead of at the top.
It's the furthest south.
Sorry?
It's the furthest south.
That's not right.
It's at the top if you put north, if you put south at the top.
Sorry?
It's at the top if you turn the map upside down and put south at the top.
Which is Zakynthos and which is...
Zakynthos?
Yes, of those symbols.
Oh, okay. Well, starting off with Kithra, that's a representation upside down of Aphrodite sitting on a seashell. Because there's a thing that she came...
The mythology.
She was born there in the
mythology.
mythology. Yeah. The next one, the trident, is Paxos. The next one is a head of Odysseus, and that's Ithaca. Above that is, the first trident is, the trident is Poseidon. Up there, above, that one is a tripod, and that's Zakynthos. And it's got a second name. So a lot of them have got second names because of the Italian name. So that's Zante. Then above there, the sailing ship. And for some reason, I don't know why, so it's supposed to, it's rudderless. So I don't know why. But anyway, it's the Greeks call it Kerkyra. But the normal name, the Italian name is called Corfu. That's the one that stuck. Then Cephalus, who went and lived on Cephalonia, that's that one, the guy sitting on a rock. And Lefkada, which I always find Lefka is a Greek word for white. And the Italians call it Santa Navra, and Navra is the Greek word for black. So I don't know how that worked out, but anyway. But that's what they all are. Yeah, and Kithra, the Italians actually call it Cherigo, but the Greeks can't pronounce Che, but they never do. If you ever hear somebody speaking Greek using that sound, Che, they're probably from Cyprus, because they use it. So when I was a little kid, I never even knew what Kithra was. My parents and uncles and aunts, they all call it Tsirigo. And that was, and anyway, I've worked all that out since then. Okay, next slide, please. That's what the design looked like. And you can see, most of you will be able to read Ionian bond, and then you cut up this in stages. And there's the line of St. Mark. That line, wings, holding a Bible, that's a symbol of Venice. He's got 7 arrows going through the Bible to represent the 7 male islands in that island group. And on the obverse is Britannia.
Written in Latin.
Yeah. So I like it. I really like it because it's that whole multicultural thing is really appropriate. If you're Australian, you like it or not, you're multicultural. Next slide, please. Okay. The principal unit was the oval. The Greek is ovalos. Plural is ovali. And replaced countermarked coins that they used from 1815. What they were doing before that, they were, just go to the next slide. I haven't got any of these. I've just got these pictures off the internet. What the British were doing, they were just countermarking any coins that were mainly Sicilian and Spanish, but any coins that were to the right value. And then the denomination they were using was para, which I believe is a Turkish denomination, and they were just countermarking. So there was all sorts of things floating around at that time, and there's quite a variety of them. They're just two reasonably good examples of what they were doing. Some of them are almost blank on one side, but they've got the counterpunching. Next slide. Okay. A penny, a halfpenny and a farthing were ordered to be struck for these islands in 1819. In 1834, a silver piece of 30 oboli as well as a copper obelisk was ordered. Most coins were struck at the Royal Mint. Some might have been done at, I'm not, what I found, there were suggestions that some were struck at Birmingham. But there was nothing definitely said yes or no. In 1821, they struck, those ones were struck locally, and they were struck over old coins, and the description used in most catalogues is sloppily struck. It's very hard to get good ones. George Casson, it's hard to get them to begin with. It's hard to get almost impossible to get a good one. George had 4, and one looked like it was not quite in mint condition, but it looked pretty good. So how he got them, he was just amazing. They were designed by William Wines. How many of you know who William Wine was? Yeah. Well, he designed them. He was the official chief engraver at the Royal Mint. Apparently when he first joined the Mint, they weren't sure he was going to be any good at doing portraits. They were wondering whether to keep him on or not. But that's saying you never know what's going to happen. Next slide, yeah. So that medal was actually designed and struck by his son. He came from a family of engravers. His father was an engraver, and his son was an engraver. He designed coins all over the, just not for England, but for colonies and everything, and medals and things like that. He was really very productive, and he was really very good. And he also designed things like the young head on Victoria's coinage and the head that they used on postage stamps from 1840. And there's a lot of information about him, but that's all I put on there. Next slide. Okay, and there's another thing there, again with another slide showing the reverse and the obverse. And the reverse is, like I said, it's got the line of St. Mark, it's got the arrows, the 7 islands, Greek text, and Britannia's on both coins, of course. And the British always did this. They never put the value of anything. So there's arguments about that 30 coin, is it 30 lepta or 30 oboli? There's nothing on there to tell you. And some catalogues mix it up, and they're never sure. And if you go to the next slide, I won't, we'll get to it later. That's a unique coin. There were unique coins. One was the 1821 one, because there's variations, because they just locally overstruck whatever coin happened to be handy. So it's not like they're all struck on a particular Spanish coin or something like that even. So that's an example of one. See, that's not a bad example. It shows everything really clearly, but it's much better condition than most of them are. Most of them were on Turkish or Venetian coins, but whatever they could get is my impression. Next slide. And that's a unique coin. Apparently that's in Victoria. And it hasn't got, well, it's got 2 obverses or something. I don't know what it's got. On one side it's got the winged lion. On the other side it's got the 30. But it hasn't got Britannia on it. So there was a transfer from the National Gallery of Victoria, and it hasn't been, they haven't found any publication of it or anything. You know, it just came up when I was looking up to do this. I didn't know it existed when I was planning my PowerPoint, so I thought I'd throw it in as well.
That was the year, wasn't it, of the transfer to Greece?
Yes.
So it wouldn't have
well,
the tally
no,
on it, would it,
1860. Well, yeah, yes and no. Yes, 1862, they ceded them to Greece. The Greeks hadn't accepted them yet. 1864, they actually passed over to Greece. So I don't even know why they played around with that design. But it is certainly unique. Next slide. Now that's the one I was waiting for. What's it valued at? Sometimes it's referred as 30 lepta. It was officially 30. Officially, it's 30 oboli. It's the same composition and size as an English trumpets. Originally, in the original set of coins, one obol was equal to 4 lepta, and that was equal to a British halfpenny. In the new system from 1833, one new obol was equal to 1/5 of an old obol. So that's not 30 lepta. It would have been 30 lepta in the old system, I suppose. But it actually is 30 oboli. And 5 oboli now are worth a halfpenny. 5 oboli are worth a 5 oboli, so 10 oboli comes back to them. I think 10 oboli would be worth a penny, and that would be worth 3. Oh, okay. We'll hurry up. Oh, yeah. Okay. I'll just pass. That's coinage images. So just pass that slide. Queensland's connection with the Ionian Islands. George Bowen. Yeah, he was stationed in the Ionian Islands, and he became Chief Secretary to the islands in 1854. While he was there, he married a Contessa, so she got an aristocracy, Contessa Diamantina Douro. He became the first governor of Queensland, and if we go to the next slide, you'll see she founded a Lady Bowen Lying In Hospital, which is now the Royal Brisbane Women's Hospital. Roma is named after her. Roma Street and Roma Street Station are all named after her. It was the Diamantina River, and there's an area of Brisbane which is called Ithaca, which is interesting because my mother-in-law's father came from Ithaca, and she lived in Paddington, right next door to Ithaca. She wouldn't. I don't think it ever occurred to her when she went there and bought the house, but yes, she was right next door to Ithaca suburb. Okay, and I think we're at the end here. We are pretty well. That's just the bibliography. Just go to the next slide for a second. I'll just see what that is. Oh yeah, I'll put that in because 1826, the first steam-powered iron-hulled warship went into action. It was built in England. The Greeks ordered, I think, a total of 5 or 6. That one went into action. One of its sister ships went into action as well a little bit later, in 1826. No, 2 entered into service. So 3 altogether, 3 entered into service. Of the other 3, 1 blew up in trials, and the remaining 2 were never completed. The war finished, so they didn't need to complete them. But that was the reason why the islands lost their military significance. Once you had wooden sailing ships replaced by iron-hulled ships carrying big cannons and powered by steam, the islands just didn't have any military significance anymore. And that's it.
Right. Thank you. We'll have time for a question or a point. It's lovely about Ithaca. Ithaca was a shire in Brisbane, and it existed as a shire
Oh, right.
until 1925, and in October this year we're celebrating the centenary of Greater Brisbane, when Ithaca and the Shire of
right.
Toowong and the Shire of Ithaca were brought to get together. And you mentioned William Wyan, the engraving on Queen Victoria's head for the postage stamps, which were 1840 in the United Kingdom. And he engraved both the penny black and the penny red. And 80 billion, I'm not exaggerating, postage stamps, the penny black and penny red, were sold. So 80 billion, yes, it was just incredible. That's the English million, not the American million. It was just an incredible number of stamps, and his engraving obviously has greater outreach than any other engraving in the history of philately or numismatics. So thank you, John, a wonderful paper. And it's a great pleasure on behalf of everybody here to present you with the Speaker's Medal.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. That completes our most wonderful day we've had. Papers of great scholarship, and I have a feeling, and I'm sure shared by everybody here, a great privilege to be here with the enormous amount of research and preparation that we've enjoyed. We have our dinner at 6:30 tonight upstairs, and we'll be starting again at 9 o'clock sharp tomorrow morning. Thank you all.
Thank you.